say it. I just keep saying it so that way I know. There was this guy I mean, I live in a block of flats close to Kingston Town, but there's this guy that lives across the road, and I'd say hello to him, and he'd say hello to me, and he'd always say my name, and I'd forgotten what his name was. Been going on for years, and I was asking people around, local neighbours, nobody knew. But eventually, I he pigeonholed me about something, and I just had to ask him. I said, what is your name? I totally forgot. Anyway, this is
I mean, technically, I have two legal names. So, Crystal Preston and Crystal Preston Watson. It just
right.
depends if it's the state of Colorado or the IRS
Oh,
that I'm
okay.
talking to. It's a whole complicated thing. Uh, and it matters for some reason. Like one wants one name one way, the other wants the name the other.
Gotcha, gotcha. It's a fine name, but yeah, the fact that your second name is Watson, like Leone, my co-director at the Theatrical and friend, they I get a bit of cognitive dissonance when I say the last bit, but that's just me. Now, Fireside Chat is sponsored by HTMLZ, which is my t-shirt arm of my vast enterprises. And if you use the code hash Piggy Trump, you'll get 20% off. So, okay. So now, oh, where can you see the
This, yes.
excellent, excellent. So well, you'll definitely recognize yourself.
Yes,
Um,
I do.
right there. I'm really worried that I'm not going to be able to not going to be able to see it. Oh, over shoulder. No, that works. But where are you though? That's the thing. Don't worry. Don't
I,
worry.
I'm
It'll
just
all
a
be.
voice.
Yeah, I know, but you shouldn't be just a voice. You should be a physical presence on the screen as well. I don't know what's going on.
I
What
mean,
I
if I have nothing but time, like if you want to, you know, do a rain check for another like time. I
no,
mean,
no,
okay,
no.
okay. No, no, so you can figure it out. Again, I don't have a job anymore. So,
So yeah, we can talk about work and
yeah.
or lack of it. Um, okay.
Um, among the millions of Americans not employed at the
Yeah,
moment.
what happened? Where were you working, and or what
So
were you
I
doing?
so right now I'm just doing a lot of side projects and then trying to find a new position, but I was with Salesforce previously and it was all in the news, but back in September, they let go like 4,000 people,
Wow,
and pretty much the CEO said it was because of AI. Um,
really?
yeah, so that was it was awkward because there was just not a way for me. And honestly, for a lot of the AI can't replace people.
No,
Like, and so that was just really awkward to be like, yeah, like, you get laid off and then you watch CNBC and they're like, yeah, you've like all these people were laid off because AI took their job. And I was like, well, that was news to me because I was doing my job until the day they told me they were getting rid of my getting rid of my job.
yeah. I mean, I mean, the idea that that they could take they could replace a sentient being that knows their shit, so to speak, with some mechanical Turk is just yeah, it's just off to me.
It
Um,
it really is.
it
I'm like I'll try to because I'm like, oh, that always sends me into a spiel about
yeah,
it.
I can understand. That's better, I think. I don't know. My screen. Oh yes, look. Now I can see. Is it recording my screen though? I don't know.
Yeah, so we're up to two screens on.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see you, and then I can see a screen with a bunch of accessibility people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Okay. So we've done the first bit. Let's do this. Let's get into the meat of it. Or yeah. Now, where am I? Ah, there. Yeah, it took me about 6 hours last time to do all the post video editing and I got an appreciation for how difficult, well, not difficult, but it is fairly time consuming to create the captions for something. Um,
Yes.
but it actually wasn't too bad because I put the video up onto YouTube. No, actually, I used something that was a Clipchamp or something from that comes with Windows, and that created a auto-generated what?
Captions, yeah.
Yeah, captions. I can't remember what format, but anyway, I then uploaded that to YouTube, and then ordered edited them in real time. So it actually wasn't too bad. I'm sure that if I God, well, hopefully this time it's going to be easier. Now,
Yeah. That's what I
let,
do when I edit videos. Like I use I'll I'll use, I'll grab the auto captions and then I'll
yeah,
go in and edit. And like that's pretty much the best use for auto captions is to
yeah,
get you a head start, but and then you can go,
exactly.
yeah, then you go in and edit them.
Okay, so now you should be able to see,
Yes.
yes. So, can you name some of these people? This
I
is you don't win anything or anything. It's not like competition. It's just
I that's the thing. Like I it's like you know, it's like I can, you know, it's like
well, I can tell
I
you who's
recognize
here.
people, but then I
Okay,
not everybody's name. You know, it's there's
top left,
Lainey,
yeah, ladies there. There's
yeah, and
um,
Natalie and
yeah.
Homer, and
I'm
then
going to have some problems. So top left is David Swallow, first cab off the rank.
yeah,
Dave's a good friend of mine.
yes,
And then there's a drawing of well, I don't know who did it, but Hayden Pickering uses it as has used it as an avatar. But it always reminds me of Frank Zappa. I'm a Zappa fan myself, so I like that picture. And then there's Pat. Now, Pat, God, I don't know what he's got. I think he had a headache or something. It's either that or he's going for Grey Beanie Day. It's his one person, sort of protest for Blue Beanie Day. Then there's, oh God. See, now
Lucy,
I'm gonna,
Lucy,
Lucy Greco,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then there's Cynthia Shelley, who I'm talking to later this week. Why is the showing? Why is it showing it like that? Anyway, um, no, side by side. Yes. Okay. Then there's Billy Gregory, who I used to work with and is working at Ubisoft or something.
Then
Um,
there, then is that the Pope?
Yes, and there's a reason why this is here. I tell you why. Because this Pope, my old friend and mentor, Mike Paciello, is related to this Pope in some way because he's Italian background. And when I saw it, I thought, God, that looks like Mike. So that's why I like it because it
Yeah,
reminds me.
he's originally from Chicago.
Who,
Like
the
he was
Pope?
born, yeah, he was born in Chicago. He ended up moving like I guess, once he got into like the
This
church, but he was born in Chicago, and his brother still lives in Chicago.
is that the current Pope
Yep,
or
the Karen
yes?
Pope.
And this is the current Pope. This is
Oh, this is not the Karen Pope.
no, this is some Pope from he's dead and gone, long, long gone.
That's I
But
totally forget. Well,
that's fine.
I'm not Catholic, so I didn't I wasn't keeping up on new popes.
Yeah, no, nor do I. It's just because Mike was related to this guy somehow, and also just and it reminds me of him. But moving swiftly on, next up we have do you know who this is? This picture?
Scott?
Scott O'Hara,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yes, I yeah, like I recognize the illustration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only time I'd see him smiling, but I used to work with Scott.
I've never seen the in real life version of it, only that draw.
Well, I've got some pictures I'll show you later of because I we went to a CSUN uh, about 5 years ago, and there's pictures, and also he went to. We used to have these at TPG. We used to have these meetups, like face to face meetups, once a year in various places. One of them was I don't know if Scott was there, but it was Orlando, Toronto, and we used to meet up because we're all everybody that worked there was remote.
Hmm.
So much the same as technological. So was nice to actually get to meet people in real life. I'm surprised I haven't run into you actually.
Yeah, like so for right when I started to like get opportunities like to travel and could travel like when COVID, the lockdown happened with COVID. And
Yeah.
then yeah, like I had like health issues like for so what like so I had like major surgery last year
Oh,
that took care of those, but before then I was in pretty rough shape, so traveling was really, really hard for me to do. So and so
yeah, no,
um
no, perfectly
now I
understand.
hope to go to more conferences coming up, especially this next coming year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I went to Accessibility TO this year and CSUN, but I won't be going back to CSUN until um, there's a regime change. Essentially, I just don't feel safe going there.
I want
Um,
to I want to go to Accessibility TO because I used to live in Toronto, so I just want to go back to like, but that was before I got involved with accessibility, so it would be nice to go back to visit and attend
I
that
love
as well.
Toronto. I think it's a great place, and the
It
Accessibility
is.
TO is a pretty good conference. I saw Eric Bailey talk. He was the highlight for me from this last conference. But anyway, so then Lainey, who you know, and do you have do you have a chapter in the book that
Yes.
yeah.
I'm the very first chapter
Oh,
in
excellent,
in
excellent.
yeah.
We
So
can talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about. I'll ask you questions about that.
yeah.
Well, I just want to get through this because otherwise it'll be the whole thing. Natalie Patrice
Yes.
Tucker. Yeah,
Yep.
I've actually met her years ago at CSUN a couple of times. I think when it was when CSUN was down in San Diego, it was really good vibe down there. And I hung out with her and some of her friends. Okay, so it's Natalie, and she's going to be interviewed um, on this podcast as well at some point.
Awesome.
Uh, Person on the bottom left, you may not know, but it's a guy called Mike Smith from the W3C. It's a good friend of mine, and he is the person that well, he's done a lot of things. I got to know him through the HTML development stuff or the specification editing, but also he looks after the W3C validator. He does all the code and maintenance for that.
That's
He lives in Japan. And he asked me to make a sticker for him, which I did, which is the Die Harder sticker. He's also got a dog on it on because he uses the name Sideshow Barker a lot, and I think that's got something to do with
that
it.
that's awesome.
And then there's Homer Gaines, who I met at Access TO. Do you know the person next to them?
No, I don't.
It's Matthew Atkinson. Matthew's an awesome character. He is the co-chair of the Accessible Platform Architecture Group at the W3C, and along with Yanina Sajko, who's a mighty beacon in the world of accessibility. But yeah, Matthew and I used to work together. He's currently, I think he's a standards lead at Samsung or something like that. But as well as that, within the W3Cs, he's in within he got voted on the technical architecture group. He's a real nerd, and he's a nice guy as well. He lives locally. He actually does. I think he moved somewhere in the Twickenham. I live in Kingston upon Thames, which is a suburb of London, and he lives in another suburb. And then, of course, there's you,
Yes.
and then there's Zoe, uh, Beale. I think I've said that right. Again, used to work with her. She's involved in the ARIA stuff and various things at the W3C. So anyway, you can choose anyone, and from there you will get a subject where you can talk about. And as I said to Pat last week, we can do as many or as few of these as you like. So it's just can we keep going? If it seems like we can't, then it's time to yeah. So make your first choice.
I'll choose Lainey.
Lainey.
Okay.
Oh no, no. You see, the whole thing is not working. No,
Oh,
no,
oh no, no. It's let
no.
me see everything.
Okay, yeah. AI. Well, have you? I had it. It was working fine. I don't know what I'm doing.
I will act like I haven't seen anything.
Okay, so under Laney is AI. So you just said we were talking about that before. Um, and oh yeah, it does work. I don't know when I present it, I just can't see anything else except the screen. But as soon as I come away, that I should be able to have it presenting there. But anyway, what was I going to say? Why there's two of me? I mean, one of me is too much. Anyway, I'm sorry. As you can see, this is total professionalism here. So AI, you got made redundant through AI, or through the excuse of AI. Do you use AI yourself for anything?
I I so Partially, I do. So when it comes to like Grammarly, they incorporate AI, and I'm someone that I've been using Grammarly for a while because my grammar is atrocious, so I need that help. So, and I've, continued to use it, and I know that they use AI within that platform. Also, when it comes to Be My Eyes, they have the Be My AI, and I do use that because sometimes I actually I do need that. So I am someone who like AI. It's I have a complicated relationship with AI because
Yeah,
one, I feel like everything is just being said is being called AI and it's not all AI. And
yeah,
then some AI is, we've been using for a while and it is not as harmful as, say, generative AI, and it's getting caught up into the into the conflict that everyone has with AI, and pretty much everyone who's like, I hate AI, I can't stand it, is talking about generative AI and large language models. Um,
yeah.
and so I definitely do, and I have actually, I've been looking into to large language models, and I haven't generated like images, but I've been playing around with Chat GPT and things like that, just kind of seeing what they're about. I'm someone who likes to, when I'm skeptical about something or I'm criticizing
Yeah.
something, and guess what? My delivery is just here, so I'm gonna take this off and I'll be right back.
Okay,
You know?
okay, I'll just pause it.
Oh,
Um,
so
yeah, I mean, I use AI myself, but I don't use it to do any testing of accessibility because I just don't think it's got. But yeah, I mean, I do like it for doing stuff like using it as like a complex image that I can't describe, or I get I use it to provide some pros, and then I sort of
yeah, it's a prompt generate. Like, yeah,
yeah,
and I think for stuff like that, I think it's perfect for. Like when I say I'm like critical or skeptical about AI, like my thing is just that there are, we are there a lot of people are throwing AI at every single thing that it needs not to be involved in. Like, when it comes to accessibility, yeah, like saying that AI can, test for accessibility and it's just like, how and why,
yeah,
I've had people say that, and I was like, how, explain to me, how do you think that's going to work? Especially when we talk about like the data sets it's trained on, that the fact that a lot of the information out there about disability on the internet is either incorrect, bias, or or isn't out there. So how can you have this large language model or any sort of like AI trained on the vast knowledge of the
well,
of the internet, test for something, something that
yeah,
may not be, it just, I just don't think it has the capacity. Like AI has its uses. Yeah, like a prompt is great. Spelling and helping me with my grammar is great. Even some of the co-pilots, like I've been looking into GitHub Copilot, some,
yeah,
kind of helping to start off like projects. I think it has really good uses there, but I think it gets what it's happening now. Everyone's taking like, okay, here's a good start, but they're trying to make that it can take things to the very end, that it can replace everyone
but it
in a
can't. No.
yeah, and it's just like, no, it cannot. And I think a lot of people are like, well, why is, I think people who are really champion AI are doing themselves a disservice by trying to fit AI into everything, because they're
Yeah,
kind of causing the backlash, like of, when someone, sees AI, you know, I think a lot where, putting AI for a lot of agents, customer service agents. And it's
Yeah,
and a lot of people are finding that they don't like it. It's not helping. And so a lot of people now when they come and they're calling a company to for an issue or something, and they realize they're being they're talking to an AI, they'll immediately start saying human, human, to
yeah,
try to get to a human as
yeah,
fast as possible.
yeah,
And it's one of those things of yeah, like, and what could happen, they could, if you using AI in a smart way, is maybe have an AI in the beginning answer, a call or a chat, and then quickly be like, is this a issue that you think a human would be best,
yeah,
best to solve? Because if you could use, that's a smart way to do it, because some people will be like, yes, a human's going to be, I need a human. But there are a lot of people who are going to be like, no, I know what I need to do is simple. And they'll choose to use AI. But when you force people to do things that, that's where the trouble begins, and you get a lot of pushback. So I have a
yeah,
lot of I have a lot of, thoughts in AI.
yeah, yeah. I've got a lot of thoughts. As I said, I mean, I've used it a bit, but I agree with you that in order to be able to have some or critical or critically analyze something, you need to use it,
Yeah.
and that's what I've been doing. And I've been venting my frustration and writing my thoughts on the flakiness of certain products. It's not even the AI; it's the user interfaces that are
Hmm.
created by the companies. You know, and it's just yeah. I mean, if anything, I think that I don't I see more work and more opportunities coming out of this for people such as you and I in order to provide expertise. So
Oh yeah,
not that
like
I'm an expert, but
I mean,
uh,
it's emergent technology, so none of us are really, you can say we're experts. And so, but we know accessibility,
yeah,
and so, yeah, definitely. And a lot of these AI platforms, they, yeah, the accessibility of them is
shit.
really, really,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's absolute
Sorry,
shit.
yeah,
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 no, it's absolute shit. Like,
yeah,
and that's the thing where it's like, well, this can help people with disabilities, and it's like, well, how can it when it's not accessible? You're pushing
yeah,
this as a,
exactly, yeah.
so it's like
I
you
mean,
can't have it both ways.
there's lots of ethical considerations, and that being one of them, but also that it, on the flip side, it does seem really useful for people with disabilities to do things independently. Um, so then but you have the other ethical issues in the background, the plagiarism, the use of massive amounts of power, and just the
Yes.
general, skullduggery, skullfuckery of the individuals involved, the organizations. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
that's Sam Altman and all those sort of people. They just creep me out.
I
Anyway,
mean, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, like the ethical, like, yeah, you can't lessen those. Like, and that's
no,
when it comes to like when it comes to like sustainability and water consumption and power
yep,
consumption, that is something that has to be dealt with, because right now, in the United States, where they're building more of these like data centers, and they're building them in neighborhoods that are, lower income, and people
yeah,
don't have the right, they're, because inconvenience people that can, who don't have the power to say no, not in our neighborhood. And we don't know like what is, the pollution output of a lot of these centers. We can probably guess from other, types of things, but in the past, it does, a lot of these data centers weren't really built in like, neighborhoods with a lot of population, but now
yeah,
because of the demand, they are. And so we do not even remotely know the environmental and the health impact that is going to come
Yeah.
about putting these data centers that are taking up so much, that's generating, all this, power for these, for these large, these models and these AI platforms and what it's going to do to, future generations. And
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Okay, so we'll leave AI aside now. Now I'm going to attempt to go back to. I'll just go to. So you can just see them. What
Yeah.
if? Yeah. So just choose one, and then I'll tell you what.
Okay. I didn't, yeah, so I didn't see the one under Homer. So I'll pick Homer just because I didn't
Homer.
I didn't see that one. So this will be a
Yes, I
surprise.
think I think under Homer it's hobby.
Hobby.
Hobby. So what hobbies do you have? That's the most
Yeah.
friendly,
Um,
uh, neutral one.
so I think my biggest hobby, especially right now, I do improv comedy.
Yeah,
Um,
I was reading about that. I wanted to so tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've been doing improv since wow, like 2011. Actually, yeah, 2011, 2010. Actually, I started in Toronto. I When I was living in Toronto,
Oh,
I used to pass by Second City, to and from work. And I one day I realized that all I was doing was working, and I wasn't do and I was just like I needed an outlet. My mental health wasn't great because I would go to work, I would go to sleep, sleep, and I would do it all again.
yeah.
And so one day I ended up getting off the streetcar, and I just went in and I asked, like about, classes, and I ended up signing up. And from there, I just loved it. I had already loved improv comedy anyway, because funny enough, I have a Kids in the Hall shirt on because I used to love watching Kids in the Hall. And they're from they're a sketch comedy like team
Yeah.
from Toronto. Mr. Show, which has like Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, like, and that's sketch comedy, but they also have like improv roots as well. So I've always loved comedy, so it just kind of made sense that I would get into it. And so now, yeah, I took a little break because of the pandemic and health, but now I'm getting back into it. I actually was in a show. It was Batman. It was called Batman Live, and it was a half improv, half sketch, scripted show about based on the 1989 Batman.
Oh,
And so
cool.
I played the mayor, and that just ended his run. And then I'm doing another show. It had it. I We did it Saturday, and then we have an upcoming show this next Saturday called STEMprov. And it's just pretty much improv based on like the STEM fields. And I created an app, and it lets the audience interact with the performers on stage. And
Sorry,
so,
so just wind it back to what
yeah.
based on what was it? STEM?
STEM, yes, like so science, technology, engineering, and math. Yes.
Ah,
Yeah.
STEM.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
STEM.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Oh
Yeah.
no, no, I kind of rattled it off real quickly. But yeah, it's yeah, STEM prov. Because it was just
Oh, that sounds cool.
yeah, like because I love tech, and I really love comedy, and I just kind of wanted to do something that would mix the two. And then it allowed me to kind of, create like different, just like different, play around with different tech. This past show, we actually had a robot performer. Like, so the robot, the audience would submit suggestions, and then the robot would, give us those suggestions while we were on stage. So every so often it would stop us and be like, hey, you gotta do this or this action or this game. And it was really cool. This next show, we won't have a robot. But funny enough, I created a website where people can submit, and using my screen reader on my computer, it will announce to the audience like different things because it's like it's a little bit of a hack of like I was like how can I create this and get set, and have it announced to, audible to the audience. So I was like, oh, I'll just use my screen reader.
It's
Like,
funny.
and so I abused, I'm sorry to say, I abused Aria. So I have Aria, like Aria alerts to announce the
That's
suggestions.
cool.
So but yeah, so that's my hobby. If other than that, video games, like when I can. That's why I'm always like, you know, really happy about, the push for making the video games accessible because
Yeah.
yeah, because I there's some games that sadly, when they, like older games where I can't, now I can't really play them because they don't have, accessible like settings. Um yeah.
What do you so can I ask you what accommodations do you like or require in games or whatever in general?
So when I'm playing like, so I don't usually play like online with other people.
Yeah.
But I do play like my favorite is Hitman. And so with that I need like having like gate like aim assist because it's really hard for me to, especially if there's a target far away. I can't see, and this is not just me, being far. Like if I get up close to the
Yeah.
TV screen, which I've done before, and I still can't do it, where I would have to have a friend do certain parts for me because there was just no way for me to do it. So things like that, being able to do, high contrast mode, being able to change, the size of dialogue where I have to have it extra large so I can, see it and things like that. So all those things really, really make a difference, and they really do enhance, like they're not just like it doesn't give, where some people like it's giving you an advantage. No, it's just giving me up to the baseline of everywhere everyone, like other people who
It's
don't
a
have to have
fucking
those
game
things.
anyway. I mean,
Yeah,
what do you mean about advantage?
exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, the idea of the game is to enjoy, spend a couple of hours or however much time enjoying the interaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, who cares if it's an
I-
advantage?
for me especially because I don't play with the, it's like
Yeah,
I can't go into those lobbies because just
yeah.
like I would just be mad all the time. So for me it's like I don't really like it's like I play the way I want to play because it's just me, and I just want to enjoy my time that I have while I'm playing the
So
game.
what games would would you give a shout out for their accessibility?
Oh wow, like Forza, like the Forza series, they've done a really, especially when it comes to the deaf and hard of hearing, they've done some really, really, really good like accessibility settings. Like you can actually have sign language
Oh,
in the
cool.
game. Like
Yeah,
and they've done some really like just that. Like and like I'm not the greatest at at driving games, but I really, really enjoyed that. Not even just for that, but like it just felt a lot more, welcoming. Just, like, hey, it wasn't like accessibility was hidden in some random, menu down the
yeah.
line. So that's definitely one. Um, I, I mean,
Well, yeah, that's
honestly,
fine. I don't want to put you on the spot.
yeah. Oh,
What I
yeah.
what I do want to know more about is Crystal Con.
Oh, yes. So that is, I saw that you signed up for
Yeah.
update. I haven't, and it's so funny. I haven't even it's finished well, I'm almost finished with the website. So I'm glad that that actually is working because I was fearing the sign up for updates wasn't working.
Well, it works, but I did notice it said 2025 against it, which
Yeah,
is
so
actually 2026. Yeah.
six. Yeah. Yeah. So I have to update that. But pretty much I did this back in 2023.
Yeah, I
Um it,
remember vaguely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's mainly just because I have a lot of ideas for talks and presentations that honestly don't have a lot of times they may not fit into different, conferences. So
Yep.
I'm like, I still want to, I want to put these on and I want to share them. So that's how it was born. And then so in 20, not this year, but in January, I'm going to have it again. It's mostly focused on AI because I think honestly, that's really hard to get away from in tech and in digital accessibility.
Yeah,
So, and that's
definitely.
what a lot of my kind of playing around with different AI platforms has been is kind of looking, into that. And so a lot of my thoughts, I have a couple kind of really cool like sessions that, I'm kind of I'm going to present from things I've done with like, so I've Chat GPT and Google Gemini, GitHub.
How long is the you planning CrystalCon to be?
Oh, so it's just 2 days and it's just
Just two
three,
days.
yes, 2 days and three sessions each day. So it's 6 sessions overall. So yeah, like I'm in the middle of like starting to film them all now to be kind of so that I can next month edit, focus on editing them. And then um, January 21st and 22nd is when I will put them all on YouTube for people
Excellent.
to, yeah.
I look forward to it.
Yes.
And so there's CrystalCon, and then there's the chapter in the book. Tell me about the book, because suddenly I've seen it's pre-order, and then Sunday there's all these people that I know or know of that I've written chapters for it.
Yeah, so yeah, it's digital accessibility ethics. It comes out next year, March 26th is um the current publication date. And, it really is, kind of giving a framework for digital accessibility ethics. And so, yeah, there's 36 different like authors and like, that have, contributed to the book. I contributed the second chapter after the editors, Lainey, Chelsea, and Regine. And so my chapter is just kind of a introduction to just giving people terms about like, what is it meant when you say disability? What is, the, different categories of disabilities, kind of getting people just kind of a baseline understanding of, did what disability may mean. And and in there I really kind of talk about there is no like hard one particular definition and try to expand on that. And then also kind of a very high level overview of digital accessibility, so that way as they go deeper into the chapters they have that kind of fundamental knowledge. So yeah, so that's my chapter. I was really excited to to add that, like. And then yeah, when I saw like and all these like great people that were a part of it, I was just like, yes, I definitely want
Definitely
to be a
want to,
part of
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I mean, Adrian's one has got a
Yes.
chapter, isn't it? I mean, it's funny because he's probably the most immoral person I know, and somehow no, that's not true. He's very uptight, but and he's very yeah, he's very right on his yeah. So they the term woke is yeah perfect.
Yeah.
No, no, truthfully, that I'll be interested to read it. Whether I actually do read it or not, because I haven't picked up a book in years. I read a lot, but it's all online and specs and things like that. So
I mean, you're not alone. There's I've I've made it a mission to start to read more books because for, as much as like, and when I say read more books, like when I can, the physical books, but I also do audio books as well. Just because, yeah, it's really hard nowadays because like you're just, everything is being, online first, internet
yeah,
first. And so it is a lot of times hard to one find things that you really want to read that that is new that they will actually publish an actual book for versus just putting online. So I definitely,
yeah,
when people
yeah,
say that, I get it because as someone who would, I was a huge bookworm as a kid. I started to, I read a lot less than I used to.
yeah. Well, I mean, I used to be an avid reader. I used to like, um, a lot of fiction, but I, I haven't read a fiction book in 20 years maybe. But I did. What I started to do was buy physical copies of the books that I'd read that I'd forgotten about, uh,
Mm.
which anything past yesterday, I basically forgotten about. And but it's getting back into the habit of sitting there with a book is difficult because I spend so much time in front of the screen every day.
Yeah, like for me, it feels like, well, I should be more weird with like I should be more productive. Like if you're not like even though it's a lot of times when you're in front of a screen, you're not really being productive, but it seems like, it gives the kind of illusion that maybe, like you are being productive. But when you're just sitting with like a physical book or a magazine, it's like, well, you're taking, that's like, oh, you're not you could be doing something way more productive than this, which is such a weird a way, like, kind of current society has,
Yeah,
has you kind of makes you feel.
I must admit, I watch a lot of telly though. So, when I'm not, it's my main pastime. Or walking the dog, doing this stuff, and watching watching telly. So I've seen some good shows and of late. So I'm watching one called Community at the moment, which is
Oh
fun.
yes, I loved like Community is awesome. Like I watched it when it first was like I haven't rewatched it, but yeah,
Well,
I loved
this is
Community.
the first time I ever watched it. Like I watch it with my younger daughter. She really likes Rick and Morty, and
Hmm.
Dan Harmon, who yeah, who's the creator of Community. But she was saying that something about like Chevy Chase plays a sort of misogynist asshole, really.
Well, yeah, from what I've heard, Chevy Chase is just playing Chevy Chase.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard that it actually, like as well as acting, inappropriately in his character. I heard that on set he's also acted appropriately. So,
yeah. Speaking
so I
about
shouldn't laugh about, but yeah.
well, speaking about books, there's this book that was about the first like 25 years of Saturday Night Live,
Oh
and
yeah.
they talk a lot about Chevy Chase behind the scenes. And yeah, that's pretty much like, yeah, there's, I think there's a story about, I think was it Bill Murray like punched Chevy Chase. Like there is just like, a lot of like behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, from that book, there is a lot like, yeah, a lot of people did not like like Chevy Chase, and that was pretty much what you see on Community is pretty much close to how he is in real life.
Well, yeah, that's concerning. Okay, so moving swiftly on yet again. Choose another avatar. I'll choose another picture and we'll see what's below. I'll tell you.
I will choose Billy.
Billy Gregory. Okay. Now let me find it. Billy Gregory. Behind Billy Gregory's Burnout.
Burnout.
Yeah. So, well, no, it's not. I'm not saying that he's burnt out, but um, well, who knows?
Yeah.
Um, now I'm trying to get back to. It's just annoying the hell out of me. It's getting worse. It's getting
Uh,
worse. Okay, we're back. So now we got burnout. The reason why it was it the reason why I put this as a subject was that I've seen and heard a lot about people talking about burnout and in various presentations and conferences and things, and usually I tune out. But the last time when I saw Eric Bailey speak at XSCTO, one of the things he just talked about human frailty. What I realized, well, I had this epiphany about Eric Bailey that he's a web uh oh, I can't even remember the word. My brain. He's like he's a web existentialist. That's what he is. He's a digital existentialist because he's just full of emotion. But anyway, he talked about uh burnout, and he was talking about how it like I believe that burnout exists, and I think that I've had burnout in various situations, but not related, well, somewhat related to my job, but not due to my actual work day. It was being involved in the development of HTML5 that I think that because after that for about 3 or 4 years I just avoided web standards altogether. Well, I didn't, but I just didn't interact. And now, in the last couple of years, I've gone back into interacting again. But anyway, the point, what I was trying to make, was that what I got from his talk, which I hadn't clearly understood, was that mainly because I've never been in this situation, but being and my co-director at Tetralogical, Henny, has talked about this being the only accessibility specialist in the room. I've never been that. I've always
mhm.
worked, had the luxury of working for an organization full of accessibility people. But I imagine that what I got from what he said was that being that one person in the organization or small team or whatever, that you've got to be in it, you've got to cover every base.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that can be really could be could drain your resources, drain your will to live even.
I
Um
mean, I mean, yes, and I think it's also it's that exactly what Eric hit on, and also I think it is the Americanness of it as well, because given it's we gotta you gotta work to to have insurance, even
yeah,
with and
yeah,
so that is something given that a lot of people who do accessibility work have disabilities, so you have that kind of that stressor as well. So you're the
yeah,
only person that is doing accessibility. You're dealing with a lot of times companies that are they're they're doing it because they're like, well, maybe our competitor is doing it, so we just copy our competitor, or there's a lawsuit was threatened or something like that. But as soon as they can, they start cutting positions out, accessibility is one of those first ones for a lot
yeah,
of these companies that will go. And so yeah, that really brings on a lot of burnout. I came from, you know, I when I start I didn't start out in doing accessibility work. I was first in tech. I actually I come from a journalism background.
Yeah, I
Um
was
and,
reading about that. Yeah.
yeah. And so I came from I the paper I worked at closed after 149 years. And so
Wow.
then I went into web development, and I was first a front end developer, and then I did the opposite of what people usually do. I went from front end development into quality assurance, and then quality assurance is one of those areas like accessibility, is that companies when they want to cut something out, QA is one of the very first things that they look to cut out. And so there's a lot of burnout in QA. So I was prepared for the burnout before I got to accessibility. Doesn't mean I haven't suffered from burnout, because I definitely do. Um, but yeah, it's the combination of being like, yeah, if you want to actually have insurance and things like that. For a while I was working for myself, but then back in 2013, I realized, yeah, I can't afford. I got a quote from my insurance that was $1,700 a month. And so
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way I can afford $1,700 a month. So I went back to working for companies. And that's one of the things. It's all, it's that all that kind of burden. And then yeah, trying to take on the burden of all this stuff. Like that's kind of what really leads to it. And I've been, I've been meeting with people, just kind of like every week, talking about accessibility. And one of the things that, some people have talked about is burning out. And I've been upfront, is like, you know, accessibility is, it's a noble work, like work, but you can't, that adage of you can't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. At the end of the day, you can't, even though you may
Yeah.
want to do this, this work, you gotta look out for yourself at
You've
the
got to
end of the
look out for
day.
yourself.
Yeah, like and that's the thing I tell myself, the day where I feel like I, it's I feel like I'm really, really hard, like, mentally, harming myself of trying to do this, then yeah, like I will have to give this, this work up. I don't want to, but it's unfortunately that is something, and I feel, you know, that is a kind of American thing
Well,
that
yeah,
we, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We-
I mean, I worked for an American company for 18 years,
Mm,
but I never worked in the States. I
mm,
worked remotely, and that I was always in a country that had universal healthcare,
mm.
and also we had a reasonable amount of holidays.
Yeah.
You know, like is statutory minimum is 4 weeks in the UK.
Oh.
You know,
That-
so it was different. So I've been lucky and privileged that my whole work life. I went from TPGI to Tetralogical, and I didn't didn't have to worry about finding another job because it was a plan that I had to move on
Mm,
at some point. So I've been very lucky. So and what going back to my original point was that what I understood from Eric's talk that I hadn't previously understood is that um, accessibility is a hard job to be involved in a lot of senses. But I mean, you're talking about having to work to have healthcare. I mean, that's just mad. I mean, I don't know if you are aware, but my friend, my old friend, and mentor, Mike Paciello, started to work at Audio Eye, which is all like, you know, anathema, the evil, and it's not somewhere that I would work myself, but I wouldn't work for DQ either or Level Access. But I wouldn't say to anybody, like if somebody got a job, you know, I'd go, good on you. You need to work,
Yeah.
especially if you need, there's basic, you need to clothe and have, a roof over your head. And in the States, you need healthcare as well.
I
And
mean,
so I can't fault somebody for that. But I mean, in Mike's defense as well, I will say that he actually thinks or thought I'm going to interview him at some point. But he did think that he went into it thinking he could do some good. So and that's one thing about Mike Paciello that I've always admired is his integrity and so I trust him. As I say, it's not something I do myself, but
yeah. I
he's
mean, no,
doing.
I absolutely agree. Like, like right now, like there's so many people, that yeah, you need to keep a roof over your head. Yeah, you need health care. I mean, I had surgery last year. That surgery cost with it, I saw the bills and I had I was working for a company. It was $100,000, and
Yeah,
that was a dis like that was $100,000. I because I had health care through my company, but in also really good health care, I paid and I know this might still be a lot for you. I only paid like 3,000 out of pocket.
yeah. I
and
mean,
and
yeah,
and the thing is that yeah, it was really, and the thing is that yeah, like I mean there's so many people. So when I see people are like, well, I have to take a job and maybe it's not like the place, or some people are like, why are you still working for this company, because they've done this and this, and it's like, well, are you going to pay their bills? Like some people, they don't have that choice. You can say, you can be outside looking in saying, well, you don't have any ethics and, morals and values and stuff, but it's really hard when you have family and you got to do this and stuff.
yeah.
So I'm not that person who will, I'm not going to demonize anybody, unless
Well,
they're actively doing something. Then,
yeah.
then maybe.
I
Yeah.
mean, the thing with Mike was complicated because Adrian was sued by the company, and so it just made things all a bit
Yeah. Awkward.
yeah all a bit
Say.
awkward. But still, I mean, I can understand. Like when I see Mike, uh, I always enjoy seeing him, and I don't, think about what the that he is. I don't think he's betrayed anybody. I don't think that his choices would probably the best, but for myself, but for him, I understand it. And but I know that people have just spurned him. People won't talk to him now.
Yeah, my thing is it's really hard, and I get why. Like I understand that sentiment of going into like knowing that like yeah, this place is not the best, but I am going to try to maybe be the change. I get that. I so it's very it's like I'm not someone who is like I can't spurn someone for having that
Yeah,
type of mindset. Like it would be different being like, "Hey, I'm just here to get all the money I can. I don't care about like that would be
yeah,
if he was going out and say something like that. That's a different type of thing. But I
yeah,
get the whole thing of like, yeah, I can be this, I can change how things are done, or even if it's like, hey, I gotta put a roof over my head. I
yeah,
understand those things, and I can't really because the thing is that I know if, push comes to shove, like I would do like there's some companies that I know I have said I will never work for, but you know, if it comes from me being,
Yeah,
homeless, I'm gonna have to,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna have to
Exactly.
rethink that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, we're in total agreement.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we're coming up on the hour. It's not. I'm enjoying our conversation. I don't want to cut it short, but I'm cognizant of the amount of time that people will
Yeah.
listen in for.
Yes.
I could probably continue all night, but I won't because also I've got to have dinner.
Yes.
It's 7:30, or it's, yeah, and I promised my wife that I would finish at a reasonable time. Krista Preston Watson, thank you. And it's been really nice to actually talk to you,
Yes.
not in real life, well, in real life, but
But
not in
in real life,
person.
yeah, like
Yeah,
Zoom counts.
yeah, it does, it does. And I appreciate you sharing everything. And I didn't. Maybe I'll get you back on again another time. It depends on how much I like. Every time I think about doing this, it's just such a chore that I'm not
Yes.
sure how much. But I've committed myself. I've got about a dozen people,
Hmm.
and I would like to, you know, just be able to talk to them because I don't know. It's something about this stage in my life. I'm old. I'm getting old, and it's nice to have some sort of mementos of my time, and meeting
Yeah.
cool people and chatting about stuff.
I mean, and I like this. Like, I think a lot of times, having the relaxed, you're not like on a panel or something like that.
Yeah.
I like, this is really nice. Like to ha just have a chat, like, yeah, and actually being able, because, I've just, it's like I've known of you and I've read your stuff, but it's like we've never had a chance to actually just to sit down
Yeah.
like and talk.
Well, next time I'm in America, I will, which, as I say, probably won't be. But if you're going to BTO next year, I may well go because I love Toronto. There was a place I kept seeing you talk. There was a comedy place called Yuck Yucks. You know,
I I I'm pretty sure like I don't really remember.
maybe it's
I
changed name. I
Yeah.
never went in, but I walked past it a couple of times because when I was in Toronto, I went there for a week and I stayed in this place called the Rex, which is the
Oh, yep.
Jazz. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's a really nice, cool area around there. And I spent a lot of time walking around the city, which was nice. I really enjoyed my time there and took a lot of photos, which I usually do.
I saw like just I know when I was in Toronto, I saw like the last Living Ramon at a
Oh,
club.
really?
Yes, and it was at a club called the Bovine Sex Club. It was a bit, it was like a friend was like, "Hey, do you want to go see the last Living Ramon
Who
play?" And
was
I
the
was like,
last
"Cool."
living Ramon?
Yeah, like it was that's what my friend said. He was a
Johnny,
Ramon.
Joey, Dee Dee. Who's the other one?
Was it Ronnie?
Right. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, like yeah. So my friend was like, "It's the last Living Ramon. Let's go see them." And it was like, "Where?" And it was like, "It's at the Bovine Sex Club." And I was like, "Cool. I want to go to the to the Bovine Sex Club to see the Living Ramon." So I just
And
had to
what?
tell
And
that.
was any good?
Yeah, it was really awesome. Like super packed. Like it was one of those just like, like yeah, it's like, I only know like the Ramones kind of like big, bigger
Yeah,
like hits, but yeah, it was an awesome show. So it's one of those things of like didn't pl I don't think they played anything like they maybe played one or two kind of like the bigger Ramon hits,
yeah.
but even the ones I didn't recognize were really it was awesome. So yeah, I'm glad I went even though the name of the club was It was a little
Yeah,
bit,
I
yeah.
mean, everything's dying now. I saw the other day because I never liked Kiss when I was younger, but as I got older, I really enjoyed it. I used to go with a friend when in my early 20s. I used to go with a friend um, in Australia to see a Kiss covers band. Like, but they did all the makeup and everything, so it was like it was Kiss. But anyway, Ace Frehley died recently,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I just thought that people are just dropping like flies. It happens when you get older. Um, and I'm presuming that you're considerably younger than me, and lucky that you are, because you've got more life
I'm
to
not,
live.
I'm pretty, like, a lot of people think I'm a lot younger than I am.
Oh, that's all right. A lot of people think I'm a lot older than I am, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't think I don't think we're that far
Well,
apart age
I'll
wise.
be 62 in January. So,
Oh, okay. I'm 45.
see, yeah,
Yeah.
you're one of the young kids, just like start hanging around with people in their 40s, like Patrick and Dave Swallow and Johnny James. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Crystal. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah.
And although we probably didn't speak about much, it was just a nice conversation.
Yeah, I no, it was really awesome. I'm really glad that you invited me on here. And I think, yeah, I think we had a lot of like I think we a lot of accessibility, bigger things. We didn't get through
Yeah.
all, like, yeah. So this was great.
Well, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's about people involved in accessibility and web standards and stuff. And it doesn't have to be that we, you know, like, yeah, I don't. My day job is to go into the minutiae of WCAG and how to
Mm.
do something. I don't really want to do that, and I write enough about it anyway. So, um, what was I going to say? Oh, I can't remember. Totally got from my head. Thank you again. And well, hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thanks. What I was going to say is if you have any links that you want me to, I mean, I'm still recording this, but I'll chop this out. If you've got any links you want to, because I do a blog post related to it, and obviously before I put it out, I will share it with you so you
Hmm.
can check it
Yeah,
out.
I'll email you the links and
Yeah, I
everything. Yeah,
mean,
honestly, just like my website, but I'll send you that on
yeah, I
email.
mean, if you have a look at the posts I did for Pat, I had a load of Pat related links, and so yeah, so like Crystal Con and
Mm.
the new book, etc. Anything that we mentioned or touched upon, I tend to provide as a link so people
Awesome.
can make it appear more interesting than it actually is.
No, this is it. No, I like it, so I will definitely be watching all the other
Well, I've
ones
got
as
some
you.
pretty interesting people. I've got Sarah Spuden.
Yes, yeah.
And I've got Natalie Patrice Tucker. I've got Cynthia Shelley. I've got Doug Sheppers, who's I don't know if you know Doug, but he worked W3C for quite a long time, and he's like the father of SVG. He was the
Oh,
person,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's a classic weirdo too. So
I'll make sure
I've
to
got
watch
this.
that.
I don't know if you saw it. I did, but I've got this really nice picture of him sitting in this throne made of sort of like sports equipment. It was in the CBC building in Toronto. He was talking. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
presenting.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing you post that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just really like it because I love his beard. He has these two sort of. Anyway, okay. As I say, I better go. Look after yourself.
Okay, you too. Thank you so much
Okay.
for having me on here.
No
Have a
worries, no worries at all.
have a good night.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Once it's all sorted out.
Yeah.
Okay, share. Now, okay, share. Now, there you are. There I am. You're over there. Oh, I'm not. Wait there. Okay. So now, if I do this, can you see it?
Yes, I can see. Well,
Oh, excellent. Okay.
yeah.
Well, welcome to the Fireside Chat, the Resurrection, Crystal Preston Watson. I say your full name because I didn't know what your full name was until I did. I just keep, I'm hopeless with names. And as a result,